this lesson we're going to look a bit more closely at exactly what a blues lick is. And I'm going to show you a few nice easy licks you can learn in the key of E using the first position. Then towards the end of the lesson, for electric guitar players, I'm going to just give you a few tips about how to set your guitar up to get a nice bluesy sound out of it. Okay, so what exactly constitutes a blues lick? Well, a blues lick is a phrase made up of notes selected from a scale or a chord that relates to the underlying chord sequence that we're playing against. For example, here's a selection of notes from the first position blues scale in E, and I'd expect these notes to fit quite nicely against a 12-bar blues in E, particularly against the chord E. But if I play these notes straight, doesn't sound much like a blues lick, does it? And that's because note selection alone doesn't really make a lick sound bluesy. We need to give our selection of notes something of a rhythmic feel. So for example, if I count myself in 1 and 2 and 3, that's beginning to sound a little bit more bluesy. Now that's a bit better, but it still ain't going to cause our audience members to break down and cry. So we need to add the third essential ingredient, and that's a bit of technique. Let's link the first two notes with a slide, and then instead of playing the open A as our second to last note, we'll bend the 3rd fret G note up to A, like this. 1 and 2 and 3. Now we're starting to sound a bit more like it. So once you've learnt a new lick, it's a good idea to spend a few minutes messing around with it, vary its rhythmic feel, try playing it faster, slower. Repeating it several times, repeating one part of it. Mixing it in with other licks that you know. Kind of like integrating it into what you already know. Then, once you've done a little bit of that, a great idea is to just use it against backing tracks to listen to how you'd fit it in with the chord changes. Remember that against the A chord, you'd probably want to end the lick on the A note, or a note that's associated with the A chord. So you might do something like, ending on the A note, and likewise when you go to the B, maybe, you know, adapt the lick to sort of aim in on the B note there. These sort of things will happen instinctively if you just use your ears as you play along to a backing track. Just working it in there gradually. Some things work better than others, but you do it by trial and error and careful listening. Okay, now let's look at some more simple licks from the first position. So on this one I'm hammering on the bottom string, third finger, third fret, bouncing my finger off and on, that's a hammer on pull off, on the first fret on the fifth string, and then coming back to a little bend on that third fret on the bottom string. Here's the next one. So this is second finger, second fret on the D string, pulling off to the open, then playing the second fret on the A string, and then coming back to the D string, hammering on from open to second fret. Loads of different ways you can do that. Okay, and the next one. So on this one, nice simple lick, second string, the B string played at the third fret with a band, open top string played at the third fret with a band, and back to the open top string. Okay, lick 5. Little trickier this one, it's a slide down from 3 to 2 on the G string, and followed immediately by a pull off, and followed by the second fret on the D string. Takes a bit of practice that to string those together. So there are a few basic licks that you can steal from me with my blessing. You can download the tab for those if you haven't done already from the printout section of the toolbox to the right of the screen, and from the backing track section you can also download the backing tracks, again if you haven't already got that. Okay, now these licks can be played equally well on acoustic or electric guitar, but the rest of this lesson we're going to focus in on the electric guitar and talk a little bit about amp settings and electric guitar settings to get the best sort of blues sound. So here are some recommendations. With your output volume turned up to around 2 or 3, gradually feed in the gain, testing the guitar all the while to hear for the first indication of distortion. This is often referred to as blues crunch. Do make sure your guitar is turned up full for this. Okay, so I've got my output volume on quite low here. I've actually got on about 1 because this is a big amp. And I've got the gain at the moment on about 1. So I'll just sort of play a little bit, practice my licks. Already that's just beginning to break up. Definitely enough sort of growl there to get that sort of crunchy sound. What you don't want is full-on distortion. Not really looking for that. Just a little bit of breaking up. About there. And that's blues crunch. Then for the tone setting, ruthlessly crank both treble and bass up to 10 and leave the middle on 0. So on this channel on over here we've got the treble up to 10, bass up to 10, middle on 0. On the guitar, you may need to experiment, but I'm going to select both pickups on full volume, but roll almost all the tone off the neck pickup. Finally, if you have reverb on your amp, feed in a fair amount of that to give the sound that nice three-dimensional quality. So I've got overdrive reverb right over here, and I've got that on about 7. If I play it without reverb, very dry, that's a bit better. Too much reverb and it gets a little bit sort of rock and rolly. Sometimes you might want that, but you know, a fair amount of reverb, that's up to you really. Well, I'm going to play out now using the licks that we were working on earlier in the lesson, and I'm going to play them over the backing track in E. And if you like, see if you can play along. I'm going to leave gaps in between each phrase, and you can choose either to imitate the licks I've just played or make up some of your own. Remember, this is all about improvising, so either approach is fine. And I look forward to seeing you in the next lesson.